AdamandJP.com.
Right now.
Exploring the multiverse of pop culture.
This is Podcasserole.
An Adam and JP show.
And here we go with our third episode in our summer series, our special bonus episodes with Intern Barrett.
Yes.
And this is going to be a lot of Barrett today because you have chosen a subject that I don't know the most about. What are we going to be doing today?
Today's subject is Anime 101 with Professor Barrett, the best anime for newcomers to Medium.
Okay.
So I guess it's kind of appropriate that you...
Don't know that much.
I was probably going to phrase it in a more polite sort of way, but yeah, because this, kind of the whole point of this assignment is a sort of crash course in anime to people who may not be the most familiar with the medium.
Right. And we're going to get into that. So how you been the last couple of weeks?
I've been good. I've been up to a whole lot.
What's the one thing that sticks out?
I think one of the biggest things naturally that happened within the last few weeks, as a big video game nerd, obviously I've been paying close attention to E3.
Right.
And I know that you and Adam talked about some of the big E3 news on the most recent episode, but I personally, no offense, obviously, but not biggest fan of some of the games you talked about the most. Like, I'm not much of a Fallout or Elder Scrolls person. Like, nothing against people who are, obviously, but that's not really my kind of thing. Some of the games that I am really excited for, obviously, gotta mention Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I've been...
Oh, you're one of those.
I've been a big Smash fan ever since Brawl came out on the Wii.
Yeah.
I never played Melee, and obviously I was an infant when the original Super Smash Bros. Came out on the N64.
Right.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Brawl. I was a big fan of the Wii U Super Smash Bros. Came out a few years ago, which didn't get a catchy title, unfortunately. But I am super hyped for Smash Ultimate because of the sheer guts it had to have taken to bring back every single character that's ever been in any of the games. Like, even like downright the most obscure ones, the ones you never expect to bring back, like Pichu, Mr. Game & Watch, Majora's Mask Link, stuff like that. And
Mario.
Oh yeah, that really obscure character Mario. No, who would have thought they'd bring back him in Nintendo's biggest crossover? But yeah, we also got some new faces like Princess Daisy from Mario and the big name that everyone's been talking about, Ridley from the Metroid games, the giant space dragon pterodactyl pirate who's also a cyborg sometimes. Which basically, if that isn't the most rad thing you've ever heard. And we got a really neat reveal trailer for him. Very Aliens-esque atmosphere with him like swooping in, like murdering Mega Man and Mario live on camera. Like, Nintendo's not messing around anymore. So yeah, everyone's super excited about Smash, and I am no exception. They even brought back Snake from Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which like nobody expected, especially since number one, they didn't bring him back in the 3DS Wii U games a few years ago, and because not want to get too much into the recent controversy. Well, relatively recent, but Metal Gear hasn't been treated the best by its parent company Konami in recent years. Yeah, especially with the whole controversy over them firing series creator Hideo Kojima. Which, speaking of Kojima. Have you seen the new Death Stranding trailer? Are you familiar with Death Stranding, though?
No.
Well, are you familiar with the canceled Silent Hills PT project?
Yes.
So basically what Death Stranding is, it's sort of Kojima, his way of trying to start a new original IP after the Metal Gear series ended in disgrace and Silent Hills was unfortunately canceled, which I'd like to think I've moved on, but I really haven't, because like sometimes I think about like the fact that we missed out on a new Silent Hill game co-directed by one of the most influential, if not the most influential and iconic directors in the entire video game business. And it would have been co-directed by Guillermo del Toro, number one of my favorite directors, and number two, he just won an Oscar for Best Picture for The Shape of Water, a movie about a woman who falls in love with a fish man.
Yeah.
And if you can win an Oscar for a movie like that, you can win an Oscar for anything. Still waiting for Pacific Rim 3. But yeah, sometimes I just think about the fact that that could have been like probably one of the greatest games of all time if like the people working on it were any indication, and yet it's never going to happen probably because Konami is run by a bunch of jerks who make bad decisions.
And maybe the mob.
Possibly.
Yep.
It's certainly not impossible, but yeah, there was a new Death Stranding trailer which showed off even more additions to the already star-studded cast because number one, you're playing as Norman Reedus, one of the stars of The Walking Dead. And one of the other trailers showed off Mads Mikkelsen as what seems to be the game's main villain. Although Kojima's games are so confusing that honestly, who can tell at this point? And also showed off a character who seems to be modeled after Kojima's partner, Guillermo del Toro, Mr. Best Picture winner himself. Although I don't know if he's actually going to be voicing the character, if he was just like the design inspiration. But the most recent trailer at E3 also showed off two new characters played by number one, Leah Seydoux. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she was French actress. She was in Spectre, the most recent James Bond movie. And also Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman herself.
Oh, the Bionic Woman,
yeah,
yes.
joined the cast of a video game by the Metal Gear creator. Like, who, this timeline we're in just keeps getting more and more interesting, I guess. Speaking of interesting timelines, and more accurately, unexpected crossovers that you wouldn't think would work, but somehow very much do work, Kingdom Hearts 3 got a couple new trailers showed off at E3. Kingdom Hearts 3, for anyone who's not familiar, is a crossover between the popular Final Fantasy series of Japanese RPGs and Disney. Like, the Disney. Like you have, like, this spiky-haired anime characters running around with Donald Duck and Goofy. It is... You wouldn't think it would work, and yet somehow it's amazing, and it is my favorite game series of all time. I love this series to death. I
know lots of Kingdom Hearts fans.
Yes, I'm wearing a shirt right now with the logo, and like I am super excited for this game. It is... Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2006, I believe, and Kingdom Hearts 3, well, I shouldn't say the next game in the series because there's been a bunch of other games, just not numbered ones, that have come out in that huge multi-year gap. And the release date's finally been announced for Kingdom Hearts 3. It's going to be coming in January of next year, so it's going to be a 13-year wait in between 2 and 3. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2 is currently my number one favorite game of all time. I'm hoping that 3 will take that spot once it's released next January. I am super excited for this.
So lots of exciting news coming from E3. And we have got a lot to get into today with our anime countdown. So I want to break away from what we normally do and kind of go ahead and get started with our anime countdown.
So the reason that I wanted to do this assignment in the first place is because I wanted to take the opportunity to shed some light on a topic that isn't really discussed all that often on the show. So I've talked about in my previous episodes, like people know about it. People know Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. People know Spider-Man and Captain America, even villains like Doctor Doom and Thanos. People know about all that stuff. By and large, anime is a different story. A lot of people maybe don't know so much about anime. I would argue that it's only becoming more and more mainstream over time, but still, it's nowhere on the level of American pop culture. You don't hear anybody at the water cooling, "Oh, hey, did you catch a new episode of Dragon Ball last night?" It's not comparable to like Westworld or like a Marvel movie or anything like that. And I think that's because anime it's by its very nature, it's foreign to Western audiences. It is literally foreign, like it's from Japan, another country. So because it's from a different culture, I think it can be a little harder to get into, even for turbo nerds like myself who still love animation as a 20-something legal adult. I say legal adult. I think I'm still not quite an adult at heart. I can only imagine what it's like for an outsider to media to look at anime. Like, I have to imagine it, like they're just thinking, what am I even looking at? Who are these people? Why are their eyes so big? That one has blue hair. Why does he have such a big sword? It looks impractical. How does he swing it? How do you pronounce his name again? Why is everyone yelling their attack names before they do them? How do they do the attacks of the lasers and the punching and such? It's all very strange to me. Or something like that. I don't know. Even if it seems weird on the outside, anime, it's really just animation at the end of the day. It's just animation from somewhere else. And it's a legitimate medium for art, just like any other, just like film or television, literature, whatever. And I think there's a lot of anime that deserve more mainstream appreciation because they're awesome. And who doesn't like awesome things? I certainly like awesome things. If you don't like awesome things, what's wrong with you? You should like awesome things. They're awesome. So today I picked out a handful of anime that I think are quote-unquote normal enough, because like what even is normal, really, if you get right down to it. But I think they're close enough to mainstream American entertainment, relatively speaking, that I think anyone who loves a good story can find something to like about them. Maybe even if you're not necessarily into animation usually. Or I hope so, at least. That's what I like to think. So starting off, we have an honorable mention that's kind of anime, but not quite. Avatar, The Last Airbender, aired on Nickelodeon from 2005 to 2008. I call it an honorable mention because it is an American-made series. But the reason I want to talk about it is because it's very much anime influence, it's inspired by anime. It has a very similar aesthetic. The action is very similar, the comedy, etc. But because it is still made by Americans for Americans, I think there's sort of a less jarring learning curve, I guess you might say. I don't know quite how to describe it. But even still, I would highly recommend Avatar to like anyone who just likes good TV or a good story, because I think like wouldn't be a stretch to call this one of the best animated series that's ever been made, just in terms of storytelling. The characters are great. They all have great character development. It's funny. It's heartbreaking. The action's great. Just like I could get into like the whole summary about like what story is about, why it makes it so great, but like just watch it. Just take my word for it on this one. Avatar is amazing. You can find it streaming on Amazon or on iTunes, and you can also pick it up on DVD and Blu-ray. Also, on the topic of stuff that's like kind of anime but not, I think Teen Titans, the DC animated series from like I guess it's like over 10 years old now, but it's also very anime influenced, offers a very similar anime but not kind of experience. Now, getting into the actual Japanese animes, when you think of mainstream anime, what do you think of? You think of stuff like Dragon Ball, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, Naruto, but I think another one of the big names that comes up most often in relatively mainstream pop culture is Miyazaki. The director Hayao Miyazaki, well known for his work with Studio Ghibli. Is it Ghibli? Ghibli? I don't know.
We'll go with Ghibli.
Ghibli. But I think it wouldn't be a stretch to call Miyazaki the most iconic director in the history of anime. He's done stuff like Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle, Ponyo, all kinds of movies, and all of his works have been critically acclaimed, I think for good reason, because I haven't seen all of them, but the ones I have seen have been freaking, I think the word masterpiece isn't like inappropriate to use here. But I want to talk about a little more in depth are, number one, Spirited Away. I think it's like the most well-known, the most critically acclaimed of his works, and I think it's for good reason, because it's just really fantastic fairy tale-esque style, almost like feels kind of like Disney-ish in terms of atmosphere, but at the same time, I don't want to just compare it to Disney because it's very much its own thing with its own feel, its own identity. It's just a wonderfully creative and imaginative movie with a ton of heart. It's the one everyone likes for a reason. Then you have My Neighbor Totoro, also excellent in its own way. It's not as complex as Spirited Away, but it's just a really simple, fun, heartwarming story with a lot of heart and just a real sense of childlike wonder. Also, Totoro is adorable. Like, I want a plushie of him. Like, I don't feel bad saying that. And I think the most sophisticated, I guess you could say, of his work that I've seen is Princess Mononoke. It's definitely a lot more mature than Spirited Away or My Neighbor Totoro. It has a PG-13 rating for one thing. You don't see that often with animated movies. Like, it gets kind of violent at some time. There's, like, a few scenes of, like, body parts getting sent flying everywhere. But it's not just that. It's, like, it has a very mature, nuanced story. Deals with the topic of nature versus technology and innovation, preserving the environment versus moving human society forward. And it deals with that in a very complex way. It's not just like a Captain Planet, save the rainforest kind of story. It deals with trying to understand multiple sides and that neither one is completely right or wrong and trying to find a compromise between the two. And also, the English dub is great, and the script of the English translation was written by Neil Gaiman, like one of the best like fantasy authors out there. So, like, that's definitely a selling point. None of these movies are streaming as far as I know, but you can find them on DVD and Blu-ray.
Right.
So, Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli, be sure and check that out. Now, right now, some of you may be thinking, like, okay, Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, that's all well and good. That's cute, but I'm not interested in kids' movies. I want something a little more grown up. So, like, in that case, this next series is probably what's going to interest you a little more. Okay, there we go. The next show I'm going to talk about is 1998's Cowboy Bebop. So what Cowboy Bebop is, it's this science fiction story set in a future where humanity has colonized the entire solar system. And it's a story, the show is just one season, 26, I think, episodes long, and it follows the crew of the Bebop, which is the name of a starship, by the way. The main character is Spike Spiegel, who is this laid-back, down-on-his-luck bounty hunter trying to escape his dark past. And so then you've got Jet Black, who's this gruff, by-the-book ex-cop who plays a straight man to Spike's loose cannon. They're like a buddy cop duo. You got the wisecracking loose cannon, and you got the straight man, the by-the-book, rules-following cop type guy. The third of the main cast is Faye Valentine, who's tough as nails, snarky, femme fatale with a past shrouded in mystery. Then you've got Edward, who's a ditzy young girl, like, yes, a girl. Her name is Edward. It's never explained. Ditzy young girl with her head in the clouds who happens to be a brilliant hacker. And finally, we have Ein, a super intelligent Welsh corgi. Imagine Rocket Raccoon, but instead of a raccoon, he's a dog, and he doesn't have guns, and he can't talk, and he's much, much cuter. Ein is adorable. He's the best. But Cowboy Bebop, the entire series, if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be style. Like, as you've heard just now, the soundtrack, it's all really cool jazz music. It's absolutely incredible. The animation is great. The fight scenes are fantastically choreographed. And also, another thing about the series I want to mention is all the episodes are, like, nearly all of them are named after music references. Like, I think the creator had to have been a really big Rolling Stones fan because you have multiple episodes named after Rolling Stones songs, like Honky Tonk Women, Sympathy for the Devil, Wild Horses. Those are all actual episode names. And you've got episodes like Toys in the Attic, named after the Aerosmith album, and my personal favorite, Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't think any further explanation is needed there, but yeah, music is a huge part of Cowboy Bebop's identity, and I love it all the more because of that. Cowboy Bebop is the kind of show that walks the line between fun and irreverent and serious and emotional in terms of its tone. I think, in my opinion, it does it incredibly well. It is probably one of the contenders for the objectively best anime I've ever seen. It's an undisputed masterpiece, and it's one of the rare anime where the English dub is universally considered to be better than the original Japanese voices. Like, I know that's a big dispute, like sub versus dub in terms of the anime community, but the Cowboy Bebop dub is fantastically acted. It's not like Speed Racer where everybody is talking like this all the time, and it's really awkward. Cowboy Bebop, it's great. You can find it streaming on Hulu, Amazon, and iTunes. You can also buy it on DVD and Blu-ray.
Okay, we're going to stop right there. We'll take a break, and then when we come back, we'll do the last 3 in your top 5.
Yes.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Cornflake.
So we host the Flopcast.
We cover nerd and geek subjects of all types, but this is sort of a sillier, goofier side of geekdom, I'd say.
We love to talk about music, especially funny music.
We talk about comic books, conventions.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah. I'd say if you're going to put the Flopcast in Brady Bunch terms, we're like the cousin Oliver of podcasting. And we do a ridiculous new Flopcast episode every week.
What is wrong with us?
We really have nothing else to do. We're part of the Earth Station 1 podcast network.
And you can find us at flopcast.net.
Okay, moving on to the third show on the list, we have Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, released 2009. I can't think of a better way to start this off than quoting the opening monologue of the series. So here we go. Alchemy. The science of understanding, deconstructing, and reconstructing matter. However, it is not an all-powerful art. It is impossible to create something out of nothing. If one wishes to obtain something, something of equal value must be given. This is the law of equivalent exchange, the basis of all alchemy. In accordance to this law, there is a taboo among alchemists. Human transmutation is strictly forbidden. For what could equal the value of a human soul? Dun dun dun. So yeah, that is the premise of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It takes place in this steampunk kind of world where the power of alchemy is real. The story follows the Elric brothers, Edward and Alphonse, who are 2 kids who attempt the forbidden act of human transmutation in order to resurrect their dead mother. They only succeed in reanimating her corpse as a zombie-like monstrosity, and in accordance with the law of equivalent exchange, they both pay an immense price for their actions. Edward loses an arm and a leg, and Alphonse loses his entire body, only surviving thanks to Edward binding his soul to a suit of armor. Edward gets his missing limbs replaced with mechanical prosthetics, Winter Soldier style, and they join the military as state alchemists in order to get the funding and resources they need to pursue their true goal, finding the mythical Philosopher's Stone in order to restore their bodies to normal. Along the way, the Elric brothers encounter a wide variety of colorful characters, both friendly and hostile, and end up uncovering an ancient conspiracy that threatens their entire world. Full Metal Alchemist, I think it's kind of similar to Avatar in a sense that it's about as perfect an adventure story as you can get. The pacing is good, the characters are amazing, they all have great character development. It's the kind of show that'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry. The action, the animation, the music, everything is just incredible. Just watch it. Just take my word for it. And one last thing, there's actually 2 Full Metal Alchemist anime. There was one released in 2003 that it was released alongside. It was ran alongside the manga that the series was adapted from, and so it ended up being a Game of Thrones type situation where the series ended up overtaking the books, or the comics in this case, they're based on. And it ended up having to create its own original story, which was not as good as the original source material. So, a few years later, Brotherhood was released, and it follows the original story of the manga. And it is way better, and it's amazing. You can find it streaming on Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon, where it's free with Amazon Prime. And be sure and watch this, everyone. You gotta make sure and watch the dub, because the dub is fantastic. Coming up next, we have a more recent series released 2005, One Punch Man. In a world of superheroes, a man named Saitama quits his boring 9-to-5 job to pursue a life of excitement and adventure as a hero. After years of honing his body to physical perfection, training so hard that all his hair falls out, Saitama finally becomes the strongest hero in the world, strong enough to defeat any enemy, no matter how powerful, with a single punch. Unfortunately, this immeasurable power has taken all the challenge out of heroism for Saitama, and he no longer feels any fulfillment from his life's dream. One Punch Man follows Saitama's misadventures as he deals with everyday problems like grocery shopping and swatting flies, tries to earn the respect of the public and his fellow heroes, and searches for an opponent who can give him a decent challenge. So, One Punch Man, I think the series' main draw is its comedy. It's somewhere in between, I think, The Incredibles and Deadpool in terms of tone. It has really big emphasis on heroes in mundane situations and has really irreverent tone overall in terms of like its own take on the superhero genre. But at the same time, in the midst of all the goofy, satirical humor, it still manages to have a lot of heartfelt moments to give it like a strong emotional core at the same time. Like, it's definitely a lot more comedic than the other series, so if that's your kind of thing, then check it out. It's streaming on Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon, but only in subbed format. It's Japanese audio with English subtitles. The only place I think you can get the English dub is on Blu-ray. And so that brings us to the last of my Anime 101 selections. My Hero Academia. The anime started in 2016, and it's still going today. The latest episode was released this morning. Oh yeah, that's good. So My Hero Academia takes place in a world where 80% of humanity has superhuman powers, officially known as quirks. With the rise of superhuman crime, government-sponsored professional superheroes have become a reality. The story follows a boy named Izuku Midoriya, nicknamed Deku. Deku has dreamed of becoming a hero since childhood, inspired by the symbol of peace, All Might, a hero who inspires hope in people everywhere and never fails to save those in need with a smile on his face. Unfortunately, Deku happens to be one of the unlucky 1 in 5 to be completely quirkless, making him a frequent subject of bullying from his superpowered classmates. One fateful day, Deku has an encounter with All Might and asks him if there's any hope for him to become a hero. At first, All Might believes that heroism is too dangerous for someone without a quirk, but when he sees Deku rush headlong into a supervillain attack to save an innocent bystander, he realizes that Deku has the kind of selflessness that makes a true hero. And so, All Might agrees to take Deku under his wing, training him to become a hero and even passing his own quirk onto Deku. One for All, a unique quirk that can be transferred from person to person, granting its wielder titanic strength. Deku enrolls into UA High School, All Might's alma mater and the #1 hero school in Japan, alongside a memorable cast of classmates and teachers with their own unique quirks of both the superhuman and personality variety. Deku must learn to master the power of One for All, battle deadly supervillains, and most importantly, learn what it truly means to be a hero. This is His Hero Academia. So I hope that was a good summary. My Hero Academia has a very similar setting to One Punch Man, but it's a very different story. It's a lot more straightforward and sincere, almost cliche, but in the sense that it utilizes a lot of common tropes both to anime and to the superhero genre. But it pulls them off so well that like it ends up being really good. It doesn't feel cliche when you're watching it. It's all about heroes and the nature of heroism, and of course, like as a huge superhero nerd myself, like that is right up my alley. The core of the series is Deku and All Might, and their mentor-student relationship. Deku has to learn how to follow in All Might's footsteps as both the wielder of One for All and his future successor as a symbol of peace. I love the character of Deku because I think he's a fantastic protagonist. You really want to root for him, see him fulfill his dream of becoming a hero, after seeing all the hardships that he's been through. Like, he's dreamed of becoming a hero since he was a kid, but the entire world has told him, no, kid, you'll never be a hero. You don't have any powers. It seems almost inevitable that he's going to give up, but he never does. He never loses hope. He never loses his dream, his determination to become a hero. And when All Might realizes that he has the heart of a true hero and tells him, no, you can become a hero. You can do this. It is the most satisfying, cathartic thing. I cried. Like, this series made me shed genuine tears. It's amazing. It's not all feels though. Even with his emotional backstory, Deku is still a fanboy at his core. He's He's goofy. He's a dork. He's a ton of fun to watch. He's basically the anime version of Peter Parker. Like he's like MCU Spider-Man. That's basically his character. Like you just want to give a kid the hug. He's the best. All Might is a load of fun too. Like imagine the old-fashioned wholesomeness of Superman and Captain America combined with the over-the-top boisterousness of Thor. And that is All Might. He's always like laughing, walking around with this big goofy smile on his face. Like whenever he enters a scene of a crime, he goes, "I am here!" Like he announces his own presence. He is the best. But he's also got a lot of emotional depth as Deku's mentor. But like I just love him because like he's a ton of fun. Like he's a big teddy bear. Like you see that big goofy smile of his, and you want to smile back. He's a symbol of peace. You know, I love him. And also, his attack names are the best. Like, even though he is Japanese, he names all his like special like punch moves after places in America for some reason. Like Texas Smash, New Hampshire Smash. Like it's ridiculous. I love it. And the entire cast is amazing. They all have great, unique personalities. Their quirks are all really interesting. I just love how the series deals with superpowers in general, because it's not like super strength, super speed, flight, lasers. Like it's all like very unique, interesting powers all these characters have, and like makes it a lot more memorable than just like a generic superhero kind of setting. I wish I had more time to talk about the show because it's all pure gold. Like the action, the music, everything is on point. It's my favorite anime of the last few years, and it's still airing. I'm keeping up with the manga even. It's like still great. If you love superheroes, you have to watch this show. This is honestly one of the best superhero stories I have ever experienced. Like, not even like outside of Marvel and DC, like even including that. Like, I love it that much. It's that good because it is all about like what makes superheroes great. Like it pulls that off amazingly. I absolutely love it. You can find it streaming on Hulu and Amazon, up to date with the currently running third season. And you can also find the first two seasons on iTunes, and you can buy them on Blu-ray. So that brings it into Anime 101. The best ones for beginners, but how long has this been? Do we have any time left? Uh-huh. Okay, good, because I have a few more shows I want to talk about. If you've enjoyed all those and you think, okay, those are all pretty normal. Like, I got those. I want something really weird, though. Like, I want to see the craziest stuff that anime has to offer. Like, I've come up with an advanced course, one might say. If you already feel good about Anime 101, I've got Anime 201 right here. And I'll try to be brief with this. It'll only take another, like 10 minutes, probably, but... Starting off, Anime 201 with a movie called Your Name, released 2016, directed by Makoto Shinkai, a really up-and-coming anime director. This movie has 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, so like it's really good. It's a romantic comedy about two Japanese teenagers who mysteriously begin switching bodies. It's like Freaky Friday, but it's a romantic comedy. Hijinks and awkward romantic tension ensue. It's quickly acclaimed for a reason. It's fun, it's cute, it's got an amazing soundtrack, but be prepared to cry at the end. I know I did. Available to purchase on Amazon, Blu-ray, and iTunes. Next we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Started airing 2012, and there's a new season, the 5th season of the series, I believe, coming up this fall. So you get the word bizarre in the title. It's being upfront about it. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure follows multiple generations of the Joestar family from 19th century England to 1980s Japan and beyond, as they use their supernatural powers to defeat the inhuman threats that menace their bloodline. So like every season of the series moves forward like a couple generations. So we start out in 1800s England. Next series is like 1920s New York, and moves forward from there. Every character in the series, I think this is like probably my favorite aspect of the entire show. Every character is somehow a reference to classic rock and 80s music. The creator originally started this, the original manga in the 80s, didn't get an anime adaptation until decades later. but he's a huge fan of Western music, rock in particular. And so we have characters like Dio Brando, named after Dio, the artist, the Zappelli family, like Led Zeppelin, Robert Edward O. Speedwagon, REO Speedwagon, that's his actual name. It's amazing. Like, he has, and this man, REO Speedwagon, he has a bowler hat that's also like a buzzsaw weapon. He has an odd job hat, like James Bond. He's the best. And the main antagonists of the second part of the series are a group of ancient Aztec vampire demigods named Santana, Wham, AC/DC, and Cars. This series is ridiculous. I love it. That's like the first season, too. That's not even getting into season 4, which has a main villain who's a serial killer who looks like David Bowie, and he has the power to summon a spectral entity called Killer Queen, like the Queen song. This show is nuts, and I love it. It's like the anime version of a Silver Age comic book with all the glorious weirdness that entails, with like shark repellent and radioactive apes and everything like that. It is gloriously nuts. I love it. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Streaming on Hulu in the entire series, all 4 seasons, in subbed format. You can find the season 1 dub on Amazon and on Blu-ray. So next we have Fate Zero, released 2011. In 1994 Japan, 7 wizards summon the spirits of legendary heroes from mythology and history to fight for the Holy Grail. The likes of King Arthur, Gilgamesh, and Alexander the Great face off against each other in fierce combat, but as the war for the Grail rages, each of these legends and their masters must find their own answers as to what it truly means to be a hero. Fate Zero is a gripping, epic story with complex characters, deep themes, stunning animation, and a brilliantly acted English dub. Its creative usage of legendary heroes makes it a must-watch for fans of history and mythology, as long as you can get past some anime weirdness thrown in here and there, like the fact that Gilgamesh, the ancient Mesopotamian demigod king, is a blonde-haired white man, or the fact that King Arthur is a girl, due to what I can only describe as Mulan shenanigans. But anyway, finally, we're going to wrap this up with a little rant about my favorite anime of all time, Gurren Lagann. That's Gurren Lagann, Gurren Lagann, released 2007. The best way I can think of to describe this show, it's like a cross between Transformers, Mad Max, and an Old Spice commercial. So Gurren Lagann takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where the last remnants of humanity live in underground villages, constantly drilling down to attain more territory and resources. The protagonist, Simone, it's spelled Simon, but it's pronounced Simone, because anime. Simone is a timid and nervous boy, but a master digger. Orphaned after his parents died in a cave-in, Simone's only companion is his older brother, the village troublemaker Kamina. And how to describe Kamina. Imagine if Thor and Terry Crews were fused together like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly, and the resulting entity dyed his hair blue, got some tribal tattoos, became a samurai, and stole Doctor Strange's cape and Bono's sunglasses. That is Kamina, and he is the best. While everyone else in the village is digging down, Kamina is trying to dig up. Everyone thinks that the underground is all there is to the world, but Kamina believes that there is a surface, and he's gonna get there. So while he's digging one day, Simone finds a mysterious robot, which he activates using a key shaped like a tiny drill. The robot, which Kamina dubs Lagann, runs on spiral power, a force fueled by courage and determination. Kamina inspires Simone to pilot Lagann, telling him, "Even if you don't believe in yourself, believe in the me who believes in you." Simone and Kamina drill to the surface using Lagann, only to find that it's been conquered by the monstrous Beastmen, who serve the tyrannical Spiral King. Using the power of their mighty robot, Simone and Kamina lead a revolution against the Spiral King's forces, so that humanity can live free once more, and along the way, Simone must grow from a meek young man to a true hero. So Gurren Lagann is many, many things. It is the hero's journey. It is a coming-of-age story. It is crazy. It is ridiculous. It is cheesy. It is over the top. It is spectacle. It is action. It is explosions. It is giant robots. It is absolutely bonkers, and it revels in its glorious madness. But at the same time, it's more than that. It has a lot of heart, and it's much more emotional than you'd think at first, just judging by the initial crazy premise. And saying exactly why that is would get into heavily spoilers, so you'll just have to watch yourself to find out why. The story, while it is pretty simple, kind of standard hero's journey type fare, but it's deceptively deep at the same time, with the story's major themes being woven into every aspect of the series. Speaking of themes, what are they? Gurren Lagann is a show that's all about hope and determination and fighting spirit and hard work and never giving up. You gotta keep digging, keep moving forward, always be evolving and improving yourself, because you're gonna get knocked down, but you gotta get back up. And if you do that, you can make your hopes and dreams into reality, and you can make the world a better place, and that is what life and humanity are all about. And one last thing, if you like giant robots, you do not know how giant robots can get until you've watched Gurren Lagann. So if all of that sounds like something you'd be into, you can find Gurren Lagann dubbed and subbed on Netflix and Amazon Prime, and it's free with Prime, by the way, or you can watch it subbed on Hulu. It's just one season, 27 episodes, and it's my favorite anime of all time. I love it. So I guess that wraps it up for Anime Professor Barrett. I hope that at least some of these series and movies sound interesting to you, and I hope that you'll give them a try. And then hopefully you'll like them and want to check out some more anime, because while it is foreign, both literally and figuratively, it's still an art form, just like any other. Not all of it is great, but some of it is great. And great art should always be recognized, whether it's about heartache, hitting human drama, the human condition, or if it's about giant robots, space cowboys, and pushing things really hard. My greatest hope for this little project is that it will inspire at least a few people to try something new and hopefully enjoy what they find. So, there you go.
There's your anime class and master class.
Yes.
And oddly enough, this was playing the entire time. It's always playing. It's always playing.
It never ends.
It never ends. It's always there.
Beck is my favorite anime.
So, well, thank you for that education.
No problem. It was my pleasure. I hope somebody got something out of that.
I think so.
I hope that was good for everybody.
I think it was. I think
you.
you did a good job. And you'll be back in a few weeks
Yes.
for another round, but we haven't decided what you're going to do yet.
It's a mystery. You'll have to tune in and find out.
Yeah, so stay tuned.
Yes.
Check us out online, adamandjp.com, on Facebook, facebook.com/adamandjp, and check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/podcasserole.
See you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
This has been a production of the Adam and JP family of on-demand talk radio.
AdamandJP.com.
Right now.